Hello and welcome to this episode of FinTech Focus TV, brought to you by Harrington Starr, global leaders in financial technology recruitment. Head over to the Harrington Starr website today, where you'll be able to download our brand new documentary, The Era of Convergence, which charts the merger of traditional and decentralised finance. You'll also be able to see our new magazine, The Financial Technologist, with the top 1% Workplace Awards. Enjoy the show. Hello and welcome to another episode of FinTech Focus TV with me, Toby Babb. Today I am absolutely delighted to introduce you to Kate Chatzopoulos from Symphony. Kate and I both met speaking at the Fix America's Trading Conference, and we're on a panel there together, and I absolutely loved everything she was talking about, the energy, the enthusiasm, everything she talked about the industry. Kate, it's absolutely lovely to have you on the show. I've been looking forward to this one for ages. Thanks for coming and joining us today.
Thank you so much, Toby. I agree. Your energy is also incredible, and it was nice to be on that panel with you. I loved everything you said, and I'm really excited to be here as well.
So listen, you've been doing some great stuff across the industry, and Symphony is a company I've known for a while, and I've been super impressed with everything that you guys have been doing. It's been an astonishing story of growth, and there's so many cool things that you've been doing to improve the industry I think to basically help it move on to the next sort of level. There's been loads and loads of things that have happened over the last 2-3 years in particular. I think have been a sort of, petrol on the bonfire of what's happened in terms of where technology can help the financial marketplaces. And I think Symphony's been at the very core of that. We've seen some real growth in it. We've seen some exceptional things that you guys have been doing. I know you've joined as part of that process and have taken, helping take it to the next level, et cetera, et cetera. So we've got loads and loads that we want to talk about today. We've been talking a little bit beforehand about the markets and everything, life in general. So I'm sure this is going to be a great episode. But before we get into all of that, Kate, tell us a little bit about you and your background, how you got into Symphony, and then actually Symphony itself and what you guys are doing to change the marketplaces at the moment.
Yeah, well, I appreciate your enthusiasm about Symphony. I have equal enthusiasm. So obviously, I'm Kate Chatzopoulos. My background, so I spent the majority of my career, or I started my career at large financial institutions, both in front office and operations, in middle office, relationship management at Goldman, Barclays, UBS. And then I pivoted around 2010, 2011, I said to myself, technology is really important and I would like to be a part of it. So I pivoted. I actually helped build one of the first KYC utilities. It was called Clarion. I'm sure there's some giggles because it was a huge focus at one point. And then I ended up at IHS Markit running the KYC solutions there. Spent a little bit of time at BlackRock Solutions selling Aladdin, and then ultimately joined Symphony and am heading up the operations strategy, which is really exciting and is actually a culmination of my entire background. And so it's been really exciting.
I love that background as well. Sorry to come into that. I just love that sort of story of sort of poacher turned gamekeeper, so to speak, and seeing all of that and actually pivoting in your career to an area where you're thinking, right, this is where the future is, and I completely agree with you. The markets have got tremendous potential in terms of where they're going, and technology is absolutely at the core of that, isn't it? So I think it's a really interesting journey you've taken. And from IHS, which is a market, a company which got huge respect for the journey that they've been on, through to Aladdin and everything that happened over there, through to seeing this next sort of generation. You're ahead of the marketplace. So talk to us about how Symphony do that as well.
Yeah, just on that point, I feel tremendous gratitude for all of the different pockets of roles I've had in my career journey. And I do feel like technology companies benefit immensely from market experts. So I'm super grateful to be here at Symphony, heading up this operations strategy. So Symphony is the most secure and compliant market infrastructure and technology platform where solutions are built and integrated into workflow. What does that mean? We're a collaboration technology platform that has two components to it. One is our core capabilities, which is our voice, video, chat, file share, screen share, and it's all end-to-end encrypted. So Symphony sees nothing. Our companies, the companies that are on our platform, have the keys and have access to all of their data. We see none of it. The other part is our solutions, and we have market solutions and enterprise solutions. So enterprise solutions, imagine SaaS companies like Salesforce, Jira, Confluence, Zoom, Microsoft Teams, all being integrated with Symphony, and you can use them interchangeably. In addition, we have our market solutions, which are super exciting, and a number of them come from acquisitions. We've done 3 in the last year and a half, which is super exciting for us. The first is called Cloud9. So think of a turret, a cloud-based turret inside of the Symphony platform. So imagine you're chatting, using your fingers, then you can also connect with someone automatically and have a conversation instantaneously. It's all real time.
I'm a big fan of Cloud9, by the way. We've had Brian Hunt and David Midget on the show in the past, and both of them were and that was pre-acquisition. And I think the story of where that goes and how it fits into your story, I think absolutely makes sense, doesn't it?
Brian Hunt is a really fun person. I'm sure that I need to go see that podcast. The second company, which is the one we just bought most recently, is a NLP analytics company. So imagine taking a earnings report and extracting the data that is super important to you and being able to find that or be presented with that data at your fingertips. Imagine the future of being able to use that data or use that tool for KYC, client onboarding, anything like that. And then the third, which fits into who our customers are, we have over 500,000 individuals on our platform, as well as 1,000 companies. So think about the largest financial services directory. And then StreetLinks is one of our solutions, which allows you to actually create an organizational company within Symphony and then permission it out to people. So if you're a portfolio manager and you want your Morgan Stanley research to know who your portfolio managers are and what you care about, you can do that easily on Symphony. So watch that space as it relates to operations.
I love the sound. And with regards to all of that, I'm going to come on to operations in a minute, but I want to talk to you about that sort of acquisition strategy. What's driven that sort of play? I mean, Symphony on its own is a strong business. To have businesses like those who've been merged together to sort of turbocharge it. What was the thought process behind that?
Yeah, well, that's a really good question, and I wish I had Brad's brain to tell you what his thought process was. Brad, he's quite a visionary. Yeah, absolutely. And so, the idea is, how do we bring the most value to our customers? How do we bring Symphony to them? And how do we allow them to, we're not just a chat platform. It's a robust technology platform, and having, voice attached to chat, having analytics, which allows you to push and pull data, while you're in the middle of collaboration, makes the most sense. So you can make decisions on the fly, front, middle, back office.
And that makes perfect sense. And I think it's really exciting about where that positions the business and where the industry moves and how it can be as easy as possible. Look, I'm a big believer in technology and businesses that make it easier for people to do their job. So internally in our business, one of the things that I see my job as is to make it as easy as possible for everyone to do the job. And I think if you look at what Symphony's trying to do, it's saying, let's look through the eyes of the user. Let's look through the perspective of what they're doing on a day-to-day basis. Let's look at their workflow, and let's make it as easy as possible for everyone to be more productive, to work as efficiently as possible, to reduce costs, and to remove friction. And I'll talk about those 4 things all the time in most of the episodes on this show, and certainly in everything I write about online and in our magazines, etc. I think those are the sort of big 4 that allow companies to really move, and why I think technology is so instrumental to this industry. I want to move, Kate, into something which I know you're really passionate about. There's so many things that interest me about you specifically, and from having spoken to you, and I know how you've been mentored and you think about various bits and pieces, and loads of things which I think is you're a sort of role model for the industry around someone who is serious about where they want to go in the journey which they're on, et cetera, which I find super inspiring. But what I also find really inspiring is people who are very, very passionate about their industry, their world, and they have a purpose which they're moving towards. And I think we've spoken in the past about your purpose, which is how you can bring value. And this sort of ties in with what you've been speaking about so far, and also to the business, but how you bring value to operations users. And this is something there which you're looking to build and to take further forward, and sort of drives you and the business on a day-to-day basis. I was speaking to someone beforehand about in the ecosystem about the whole concept of how we can move further forward holistically and bring a business which adds real value to the industry and is passionate about the purpose which it brings together. Tell me a little bit about how you can how that drives you, and your views on how you can bring value to those operations users.
Yeah, it's a great question. So I spent many years in operations, and operations stakeholders have really important jobs that they need to do on a daily basis. What happens in their day-to-day, though, however, is that whether they're in client onboarding or whether they're doing post-trade processes, they're using many different systems. The processes are siloed, the systems are fragmented, and what they end up doing in their day-to-day is a lot of extra work. So to give you an example, for client onboarding, they're going to various different systems to find information, and then they're plugging it into one central system. And then when they need more information, they need to go here, they need to go there, they need to pick up the phone, they need to send an email to someone. For post-trade processes, whether you're confirming a trade, affirming a trade, allocating a trade, settling a trade, and you have an exception, you are leaving your platform. You are leaving somewhere and you're going to email and you're typing something and you're like copy and pasting information. That is all error prone. It is risky, and it just creates friction. So what we look to do from a Symphony perspective is leverage our robust technology, which is filled with APIs and development kits, to enable people to not have to context switch, to be able to push and pull information from one place to another, and then collaborate with the industry seamlessly.
That's incredible sort of view of that, isn't it? And it's and I think when you look at all of those sort of things, it comes down to those original things I'm talking about, is removing friction and making it an industry which is easier for people to do their jobs. And that comes down to I think a really refreshing move, which plays perfectly into your hands, about interoperability. I guess I've been brought up in an industry, working into the financial services space, where it's about enterprise systems that say this is what you've got and this is how you have to work with it. And I think what's really encouraging about probably the last five years, maybe a little bit longer, is the opportunity for people to basically bring a suite of products in that allow them to play at their best. And if I think about this, and I think about the individual needs and necessities of individual businesses, a tier 1 bank and a tier 2 and a tier 3 bank have got very, very, very different issues, problems, solutions. And in each equity class, asset class that you're looking at within all of those, there's different things that come through, and it's different on buy side and sell side. I think sometimes it's been that this is how you do it. This is the product. Go out there and you have to work around that particular product. To me, interoperability is about people saying, look, we can solve these problems together. We can make this efficient together. Let's look at how we can build best of breed and pull it all together to provide that solution, which allows us to have something there which is fit for purpose, which is user led, which is going back to that phrase again, friction free, and making it as easy as possible for doing things. And that to me seems at the core of what you're talking about and where your passion lies, right?
Yeah, 100%. There over the years, and you know this very well, there are so many new fintechs that have come to fruition, and they're smart solutions, and they're meant to be supporting, these operational processes. And one thing that will really benefit, well, there's a few things that would benefit all of them, especially as we move into a T1 environment with the accelerated settlement cycle. It would really benefit if they all talked to each other and they collaborated with each other. And we're seeing a lot of it, which is exciting. The point really is that everybody has a unique selling proposition. Even the fintechs that directly compete with each other, sometimes they have complementary
absolutely
areas, whether one covers one asset class, the other covers the other asset class. So if we could all learn how to work together and combine, connect these systems so they talk to each other. If we created standards around processing, which is CDM, which is the common domain model, even if we, focused on things like that, I think we could all support each other and help each other. From a Symphony perspective, that's really what we want to do. We know that we have the best collaboration platform. It's end-to-end encrypted. And we know that people leave their platforms when they need to collaborate on an exception. So if you embed communication into those flows and then connect it to the industry, you're saving time, you're removing risk. So there's a lot of opportunities out there. And I am seeing the collaboration, and it's exciting. And I hope that we continue on that road.
I think there's been enormous progress on this, and this has been something which I've got a bit of a soapbox thing on because I think the industry for a long time has been very, very insular. So it's like every business hasn't wanted to share any information. Every business has been sort of storing their own, hiding their homework and not wanting to have anyone peer over and see what they're doing. It's all been a sort of super, I would say financial services is the most super competitive industry in the world, full stop. And I think what they've recognized within that over the last few years is actually there's a fair amount of things that can be done by learning from each other. And be it digital assets and the whole or even before, if we go a stage before that of the right fintechs are here to take over the banking world. I think what the banks and asset managers and hedge funds, et cetera, have been able to do from that is recognize that if we're standing on our own feet, if we are individuals against this tide of innovation and it's us versus them, we'll lose. But if we think, right, how can we collective intelligence and how can we embrace the fintechs originally as they came through and say, right, how can we work together? How can we, and it's the same in digital assets of the merger of TradFi and DeFi, and how we can put those two worlds together and actually bring the best out of both. It creates a really interesting world, I think, to move further forward with. And to me, that's the beauty of interoperability. The as you say, there's lots of different things there where people have got loads of slightly different ideas. If you weave them together, you can have something that really moves further forward. And I think there's much more of a collaborative world at the moment that allows people to win and allows people to play at their best. And when you've got so many constrictive and pressured, I guess, macroeconomic factors that come into play, this whole thing is about how can we deliver the best possible service to our users and how can they work with various different people. And I think it's so much more of a collaborative environment that I've ever seen in 2 decades of working in this industry. Right now, I'm really, really excited about the potential of people working together rather than against each other to say, it's not us versus them. It's how can we fuse this to provide something that's of value to the end user. And I think T1 is a really interesting focal point for this of an area of significant change that creates an area of significant opportunity. And you've written about this recently. Tell us about your whole thoughts about what it actually means and where this moves further forward.
Yeah. Good question. So I wrote a blog recently about T1 and how, I believe that our mindset needs to continue to evolve as we move into, these regulatory initiatives or further into them. And I wrote in the blog, I wrote about 3 things. One is around, communication generally, and the theme that I'm seeing around aggregation of communication. And I'll explain what that means. Essentially, our customers are asking to communicate with us in many different ways. Some of them use Symphony, some of them are in email, some of them want to automate communication. So they don't want to send an email anymore. They want to ask a bot or an API for information and then get the answer that way. And so we as an industry really need to start thinking about that and how communication aggregation should work, while also being able to prioritize our customer queries and meet SLAs and so on. So I've been seeing a lot of companies thinking about how they integrate all of their communication, whether it's chat from Teams or Symphony or email, into one central location so they have transparency. And then on top of that, so they have transparency as the ops organization, but then also how their customers can also have transparency. And I'm starting to see a lot of people asking for self-serve capabilities, proactive messaging and notifications, going back to, I don't want to send an email, I just want to get the information, because we know who's going to ask for what and when they're going to ask for it, because we have the data around our emails and like what's coming in and what's coming out. So that's a super interesting theme. So that's number one. The second is around an industry directory. We all know that people are managing who to reach out to for what, whether it's client onboarding or whether it's for allocations. They are all managing this stuff in spreadsheets. The banks, the buy sides, and everyone has distribution lists. And they're all in their spreadsheets and they're keeping them up to date, but that's not the best way to manage, who to reach out to as we move into T1. Like, you're not going to have time on your trade date to figure out who you need to reach out to. So imagine if there was an industry directory, and we heard a lot about this through SIFMA roundtables and working groups. There is a buzz around it right now. Could we centralize this? Could the banks provide their data to say, these are all my middle office teams across the globe for US, for EMEA, and this is an escalation contact. This is the distribution list. And you take that and you use it, either you send them an email or you send them a Symphony chat, however you want to use that information, but can we centralize it so the industry can leverage it together? And then, yeah, go ahead.
It ties into everything you're saying, doesn't it? I find this is sort of, it's mind-blowing, but at the same sort of time, it's common sense, isn't it?
Yeah, for sure.
That's where you come with. Tell us about number 3.
Well, number 3 is what you and I have already been talking about, which is interoperability. And I'll say it again, we all have a unique selling proposition. We all have something unique that we offer to the industry. Let us work together and combine those solutions to support each other. Absolutely.
And this to me is the crux of it, isn't it? That there is a phenomenal world of opportunity that is just about combining the collective, brilliant minds that we're talking about and collective brilliant solutions to do what is about taking an age-old process and making it as quick and as efficient and as and this all comes down to the whole digital revolution. That we're sat there with phones on our desks, which make every single aspect of our life 10 times easier. Rather than having to flick through a Encyclopedia Britannica to find out information, it's there in seconds. And so we've got this intrinsic mindset of immediate satisfaction with every single aspect of our normal everyday lives. That comes down to how we bank, how we act, how we buy, how we interact, how we expect everything to be done with the click of a finger. And I think, in terms of doing our job on a day-to-day basis, we're in exactly that same sort of mindset of saying, let's make this as easy as possible for us to do this. And I think when you look at businesses like yours, and why I'm such a fan of Symphony itself, is because it's recognizing that, and it's forward thinking in terms of saying, right, how can we look at the acquisitions that you've spoken about earlier on, the mindset of interoperability you've thought about and spoken about so far in this show, but also it's done through a process of saying, how do we make this as easy as possible for people to excel at what they do and to be as good as what they can do, so they can be as productive as possible. And I think that to me is the crux of everything we've been talking about today, right?
Yeah, for sure. I liked what you said. So you brought up data. So there's so much data available, and there are a number of firms out there that are consolidating that data, whether it's for onboarding, whether it's for post-trade processes. I think that's brilliant, and that's so valuable. But how do we use that data, and how do we not degradate that data by leaving the platform? If you can include collaboration in that flow, you keep the data there. Even if the people aren't in that platform, they could still communicate, and the data still living in that world, kind of like my all the little stars in the background.
That's why you used it.
Exactly. Super interesting stuff.
I think data is probably one of the still the untapped superpowers of the financial services sector. Everyone's been talking about it for a long time. We know that there's a whole load of power in the data. There's been a lot of innovation that's come through from it. Everyone's talking about it. It's been on agendas in pretty much every institution across the world. But I'm still not 100% sure people are using even a fragment of the potential that it's got to be able to completely transform the buying process, or the trading process, or the ease of work process, for everyone to have that sort of predictive analytics that allows people to make better choices in every single aspect that you're talking about. So, there's a lot that's been written and spoken about the sort of threat of AI and machines, et cetera, and how it disintermediates the world and creates threat to humankind. But I'm a big believer in man and machine coming together, and how that can make everything so much more
100%.
productive in terms of what we're doing. And it's the big opportunity in the space, I think.
Yeah, I have an example for you. My colleague Elena's worked on something. It's around corporate actions. I think she's calling it EDM. But so she's worked with a company that provides corporate action data, and the banks are consuming that data now, but they're consuming it in, they're getting spreadsheets, and then they're sifting through information. We've created an integration with Symphony whereby that data flows into Symphony, and then you can create certain tags and signals to say, and then you can go ahead and search for that data. So instead of having to search through an Excel spreadsheet, can you search through the database via a Symphony chat room, and then be presented with all of the information that you might need?
And that makes perfect sense, right?
Yeah, it's super exciting.
Absolutely. Look, this as predicted, this is something there where I feel like we could have been talking for ages about it, and I told you this would go incredibly quickly. We've hit the half-hour mark already on this show, and I feel like there's about 15 billion things that we can be talking about. I want to do a show which is based purely about you and your journey, which is a whole nother story, which we can talk to everyone about later on. But that's for another show. I want to finish though, Kate, with two things. One of which is that there's so much value that you guys can be bringing to people at the moment. I want to talk about who should be talking to you and how do they get in touch with you. But also, I just want to be looking for to 2023. This is my last episode, which is currently being filmed in 2022 as we rapidly head towards Christmas. So this is the last physical episode of 2022, and I've spoken to some amazing people all the way through this year. Had some great fun on this show, spoken to some amazing people, learned some amazing stuff, etc., etc. But this show will be out in January, February, probably early February of 2023. So I want to ask you, just before we go on to the bit there where you're telling us who should be speaking to you and how do we get in touch with you, I want to be asking one last thing about tell me one thing that's exciting about what you think Symphony are going to bring to the new year, and then also a prediction for what you think is going to happen in the marketplace.
Yeah. Okay. Great question. I'm going to say two things. One, operations directory. We've got it. Let's talk about it. The second thing is bringing telephony back to the world, but real-time telephony. So think instant voice.
Yeah. That's exciting, right?
Yeah, for sure.
I'm gonna hold myself going back into that because I can feel like there's another about 10 minutes.
I know you like
10 minutes
this
of
topic.
content going.
Well, marketplace 2023, there's an enormous amount of focus on the accelerated settlement cycle. So with T1, I see a lot of focus on that. I always see focus on client onboarding. I think there's a lot happening there. And so I would say those two things.
Yeah, I agree with that. And who should be reaching out to you to talk Symphony at the moment?
Everyone. I'm just kidding. Definitely existing customers, buy side and sell side. If we haven't met, let's meet. New customers. I think anyone that's interested in creating a more efficient process as it relates to workflow and collaboration, we have lots to talk about. Fantastic.
And the best way for them to get in touch with you?
Oh, I mean, LinkedIn, Symphony, my email address, Chatzopoulos at Symphony.
We'll get that tagged in. We'll get you tagged in on LinkedIn when we put this out as well. Kate, I said at the start of this that I've been looking forward to this for a while. It was a couple of months ago that we met out in New York, and I'm so excited about what you're doing. I love having interesting people on this show. I love the fact that over 2022 I've spoken to literally so many people who've inspired me, excited me, spoken with passion about this industry, and it's great to work in an industry where people are so passionate about what they can do and where their companies are heading, and some of the problems in the industry and how they can take them further forward. I loved it on our panel at the Fix conference. I love the energy and excitement you bring to the industry, as I've said before, and it's been for me this is the ultimate way to finish a great year of speaking to cool people, and you're right at the top of that sort of list. So this is going to it will date a little bit owing to the fact that we're launching this in February. So happy New Year to everyone as we speak today. But from me, a massive thank you for coming on the show today. Love what you guys are doing. Love everything you're talking about today. The future is interoperability. I'm convinced of that. And I've really enjoyed having you on the show.
Thank you so much. You are such a bright light, and thank you for having me. I feel really grateful, and it's a great way to end the year as well.
Absolutely. Listen, thanks for coming on, and thank you all for watching. We will see you soon on another episode of FinTech Focus TV. Thanks a lot.